and the themes for such movies as Picnic, On the Beach, and Book Academy. He also was a very jazz musician and an actor. He played the lead in the film, The Benny Goodman Story. So here's Glen Acorn, best known as our stellar sax player, and his own take on an arrangement for Louis Armstrong of Steve Allen's Cool Yule to recreate old Satch's famous trumpet solo with Doug Zimmerman. Have a Cool Yule, guys.
I was going to say a few words, and my brother was going to say is going to say a few words. My dad was the most predictable and simultaneously, by turns, and simultaneously predictable and surprising person I've ever known. He was extremely predictable in relation to anything that he undertook to do. He was predictable in getting me up and out of bed every morning, in making us daddy egg sandwiches on Saturday afternoons. He was predictable in picking me up anywhere that he said he would pick me up. His predictability, I think, was sort of derived from an idea that he held very close to his heart that actually came from insurance law, the idea of uberrima fides, of the utmost good faith. And he took that very, very seriously, and as a result, he gave me the incredible gift of being able to have that kind of certainty and trust in another person, and in knowing that he would behave well and predictably and in a trustworthy way. He was also incredibly surprising. I knew my dad loved jazz. I was the beneficiary of the fact that my mom did not love jazz. And so I got to go with my dad to see many of the jazz greats. I saw Duke Ellington in the Jubilee Auditorium with my dad. And I can remember I remember Duke Ellington being amazing, but I also remember just how incredibly moved my father was seeing Duke Ellington. I knew that my dad had musical talent. I knew that he had skill, but it wasn't until my mom actually really encouraged him to start to play jazz again with the band, and by that time I was sort of in my late teens, that I saw him on the saxophone and discovered that he was an amazing virtuoso musician with so much soul and so much freedom and so much joy and such a real performer. And he was also very surprising in the way that, he sort of seemed to not be noticing very much about human relations or the human personality, but then he was a very textual person. He always was focused on the text, and he wrote letters, and in letters I was often so surprised by the depth of his understanding and the depth of his observations and his perceptions about what was happening between people in our family and people that he loved. I told him very close to the time of his death, when I came home for Christmas, I wrote him a card, and I said this, and I meant it, that his love really held our family together for decades. He loved each and every one of us always, even when no one else did. He always loved all of us all the time. So I just wanted to, I know the hour is getting late, so I could go on, but I won't. I just want to very quickly finish with a poem that I wrote for him quite a few Father's Days ago, but it gives a few little vignettes of things that mattered to me, and the title of the poem is Bad Acorn. Bad is my dad, Bad Acorn, that is, a name he was given by some of the kids at my law school. I guess they were men, gave my dad this name in the days way back when, and they called him Bad just because he was good on the sax, the whole world understood, good in the office and good on the horn, good at good graces with life to adorn. It was cool to be bad, and that made me proud. I knew with my dad that cool was allowed. Now, Bad's not alone in the names that he's nicked. There's Rocky and Benny, and these two have sticked. And that he's been given all these appellations by colleagues and friends and by other relations shows that he stands high in their estimations. With my cool and good dad, there's been many a time that he's given me memories so sweet and sublime. There's the time that we two, with flotation device, went into the lake among caps that were white. Well, that's not quite true. They were caps to be sure, but these caps were just big and decisive and pure. It wasn't exactly a storm, I don't think, but the sky was dark and the light, it was pink. We bobbed in those waves for a very long time. The air was so warm and the moment so kind. It's funny the things you remember, they say, and it's true, because I'll always remember that day. And other things also have stuck in my mind as the years have gone by and I've watched time unwind. Like sometimes when Mom would go out for a game of golf with her friends in some other domain, we'd be left just with Dad of a Saturday morn. But he was so fun that we were not forlorn. And then with a grumbling urge for a munch, do you think he could make us something for our lunch? The answer was yes, with an egg and some toast and some ketchup to finish off what we liked most. A daddy egg sandwich, a thing we adored. Just gobble it up and you will be restored. Then comes the time that Dad stepped on my mouse out in the yard just behind our old house. I'll never forget the sight of his foot coming down right on top of that rodent kaput. But even though that memory is so sad, I learned quite a bit then about my dear Dad. The death of that vole was complete accidental. My father intended, had meant to be gentle. And through all the torrent of all of my tears in connection with me, my dad persevered. We went for a walk. I don't know what he said, except just how sorry he was it was dead. But as we proceeded down 78th, for my feelings, my dad, he created a space. And when young Leona abruptly appeared, my dad kindly said, "Could you go away, dear? We're having a moment. This time isn't good, so please just go elsewhere in this hood." And still to this day, that wide intercession he made just for me, it has left an impression. It was perhaps one a most singular break with the urge to dissemble, emotions to fake with the neighbors and paste on a smile, knowing at least they'll be gone in a while. But because of that mouse and my dad, I now know that it's possible for you to say, "Please just go." So now, here today, I raise a glass to a dad with an act that's forever first class.
Okay, now it's my turn to speak, but before I do, a couple of important things. You may be wondering, where are we in the program? I'm going to speak briefly. PJ's going to play a tune, and then we'll go to an open mic, but I will tell you, if you're really hungry, that there is food ready on the side. Now, as long as the whole room doesn't leave for my words, please feel free, help yourself. And of course, the bar is open on the other end on this floor. Yeah, so we're just about there, and I'm enjoying this immensely. I knew it would be wonderful to celebrate Dad's life. It's especially wonderful to hear things about Dad that I didn't know, and that's really hitting me in a good way. What I wanted to say was that I guess you probably figured out that he was a good dad. He was a really good dad, but he was especially good. When I think back over his life, he was especially good for me when I was very young. For most of my life, he was kind of an unchanging, rock solid touchstone. You know, he was always doing the same work and living in the same house, and he was always there. It was really nice. But when I was young, there was a couple of things he did that were really important to me, and I'm going to tell this brief story mostly for the table on the west end of the room. Those are my scientist friends. This jazz music and lawyer person. How did I happen? Well, Dad used to take me to the library, and when I was 5 and I couldn't read yet, he took me to the Woodcroft Library, and he'd say, "John, what kind of books would you like?" And I'd just look at the pictures on the cover, and there were 2 books that were really important to me. One was the How and Why Wonder Book of Insects, and the other was the How and Why Wonder Book of Dinosaurs. And we took these books out, and he read them to me at home, and I thought, oh yeah, that's for me. And then, not only that, he would take me to these nature walks that were organized by the city of Edmonton, and we would learn about plants because they were led by 2 botanists, Dr. McGregor and Dr. Carlisle. They didn't know anything about insects or dinosaurs, but they were still inspiring. And then he took me here to the University of Alberta because he figured out that there was an entomology department here. And when I was 6, I don't know who I talked to, but someone showed me a box of tropical beetles, and the box it still exists under the curation of my friend Felix. And more important than that, I realized that these were grown-up human beings who were being paid to study bugs. This was possible. This was a possible trajectory in life. So how wonderful. Now, it's still a bit of an open question whether it was his idea or whether he was told to do this by my mom. But that doesn't really matter to me, because he did it, and it really was so important to me. Now, I'll just say one more thing in the form of a story. We haven't really been poking much fun at my dad, which is kind of too bad. Now, Eva Jane, you used the word quirky.
Ruth used
well, no, you used quirky too.
Quirky is a good word.
Quirky is a good word, yes. And I think anyone with the kind of focus that he had with language, with music, you know, that kind of focus can sort of blend into neurosis in some ways, if you know what I'm saying. And sometimes he was extraordinarily particular. And I'll tell you one story that I think may help you understand this. The year that Dana and I got married, whatever year that was, it was 32 years ago, as far as I can tell. Anyway, we got married in June, but you know, Dad's birthday was in April, and I said, "What do you want for your?" He was always very hard to buy for. And I said, "What do you want for your birthday, Dad?" He says, I want some clothing for golf. I'd like a purple short sleeve golf shirt with the pocket on the right side, because when I swing, I put my scorecard in my pocket, and if it's on the left, then I feel the scorecard and it messes up my swing. So it's got to be, the pocket's got to be on the right.
Can you
That shirt does not exist. and the other item, soft yellow golf socks. And Dina's smiling because she remembers the soft yellow golf socks. And we're, okay, well, maybe that's possible. So, you know, pro shop after pro shop, soft yellow golf socks, no. So Father's Day goes by, still no soft yellow golf socks. And then we're coming back from our honeymoon from Greece, and we're in the Heathrow airport in London, and this is a good story. Nobody's gone for food. And there in the gift shop, the St. Andrews golf course gift shop, there are some yellow golf socks. And they're soft, and they're really expensive because they're St. Andrews golf socks, and so we buy them and we save them until Christmas. And Christmas morning, we give him the golf socks, and he opens them up, and he's like, oh, what are these? And I go, well, those are soft yellow golf socks, Dad. That's what you wanted. And he says, yeah, but they got a crest on them. Do you think you can take them back? Oh man, just, you know, golf season not for a few months. Just put them in the drawer and see if you can get used to them. There was that aspect, which you know, it was kind of annoying at the moment, but it became quite an endearing aspect of dealing with it. So I'm happy to tell you that story. I'll leave it at that. But I'd also like to introduce PJ. Now, you've heard, for those of you who don't know who PJ is, PJ Perry, one of the greatest jazz musicians in Canada, North America, the world, the known universe, no doubt. And Dad was such a good friend with PJ, and he knew PJ since PJ was 6. That's my understanding. PJ is no longer 6. But he still plays the saxophone. And now I want to turn it over to you, PJ, to play it.
Time for dinner.
No, I want that. I want to see if I can prop it up so that we can.
Where's he?
I don't know. We'll find out.
So needless to say, a great honor to to be able to express my feelings for my good friend Glen musically. He was very supportive and a wonderful musician. And so this song asks the musical question, what'll I do? What'll I do?
Thank you, BJ.
Thank you, John.
I'm going to open up the mic now. If anyone else would like to say a few words. I knew it would be you.
Thank you for putting it all the way down here. I'm just saying a few words because everybody's had sheets of paper, but those of you suffering from attention deficit, this is going to be fast. Just a couple of questions. I just want to say in about 2018, Glen and I started corresponding, and I can't exactly remember why we did this. It was probably something to do with being at their home, and Annalise and June and Doug were probably fighting. And so Glen and I were probably trying to duck and not get involved. But we started corresponding, and in one of the letters he told me, Kathy, these are two great expressions I loved, and don't forget to do the hand motions with it. So here's the first one. I actually wrote it down because I thought in front of all these very impressive people I was gonna go blank. Here it is. I don't get into town much, but when I do, bingo, there goes the egg money. And the other one was, which I thought was so charming, was snap go the suspenders and the rhubarb is on. I'm not sure where I can use either one of these expressions, but they reflect very much Glen. He's so charming, he was folksy, and he was able to speak to anyone, even little old me. Anyway, thank you for that. I just wanted to share that with you.
On that street, crazy street.
She doesn't want to speak. She wants to remind us that the food is on.
I'll say a few words.
Sure, Benny, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Benny Acorn. I am one of Glen's grandsons. To me, he was, my grandfather, and I knew him as Papa. And I owe a lot to my Papa. First off, two of my names were originally his, both Benny, after one of his nicknames, and also my middle name is Glen as well. And when I think of him, the way that he expressed his love for me and for much of his family was through these constant and as my aunt said, sort of predictable or reliable acts of care and of service. And we would go every week on the Sunday to have family dinner with him and my grandmother as well. And every time he would have, before we went out the door, he would come up to us and clutched in his hand would be a folder full of newspaper clippings that he would have cut out, thinking of each one of us, and he would have written on each clipping who it was for. And going further back than that, he was very good to me, especially when I was young. I remember drawing very often in his office, and a very nicely appointed office with this huge desk, glass-covered old wood, voluminous chair, and I would be drawing little doodles, and then he'd fax them back home for me so I could have them there. And I think I still have some around. And he would have in his desk these Coffee Crisp chocolate bars from my brother and I. And for years, I just thought, well, he must like Coffee Crisp. And so when we sort of grew older and stopped spending as much time, in that particular activity, every once in a while I'd go down into his office and I'd open a drawer, and I would notice that there was this big pack of little dollar store Coffee Crisps. And I'd really want one, but I figured, I better not go into his stash. It was only years later that I realized that they had only ever been there for us. And by that time, they were very stale. I think they might still be there, actually. I don't know if we ever did. I think they expired in 2008. Yeah, I just wanted to share, that side of him that I saw. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
All right, well, please, help yourself to some food, get a drink, and we have the room for the rest of the afternoon. It'll be really nice to chat with you all. And thank you so much, every one of you, for coming. Thank you for your support, your friendship, and thanks for being part of this celebration of life for my dad. Thank you.